Well. Listen, the Chicago Cubs might not have gotten the victory on Thursday, but we did kind of get a different victory in some sorts. That's right. The Chicago Cubs. Breaking news by Jesse Rogers. The Cubs extend Nico Hoerner, and he's going to be here for a while. Let's talk about it right after this. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, your number one spot for all things Chicago Cubs. All right, guys, listen, it happened. The Chicago Cubs and Nico Hoerner are in agreement on an extension. That's right. The Chicago Cubs and Nico Hoerner agree to a 6-year deal for Nico Hoerner to stick around to Chicago. A lot of people were wondering, man, what's going to become of Nico Hoerner? Is he going to still be a Chicago Cub after this season? Well, listen, worry no more. You got 6 more years of Nico Hoerner. Jed Hoyer, as you can see, guys, you can see he's putting together all of these deals that are happening. He's putting together the people that he believes are his nucleus. And he is giving them all contracts. Nico Hoerner got his deal. PCA got his deal. You'll probably see a Michael Busch deal here coming probably next. I believe so, because Michael Busch is definitely a part of that Cubs nucleus, especially after what he did against the Nationals in Game 1. Hopefully he can keep that going all season long. But this is just another example of the Chicago Cubs leading the way with the Chicago teams maxing out, paying the guys that they need to pay to keep them around. Basically, the Chicago Cubs don't want any doubt, don't want any teams to get their hopes up. Nico Hoerner is here to stay. He is a Chicago Cub. Whether there's a lockout next season or not, Nico Hoerner will be a Chicago Cub moving forward, along with Pete Armstrong, along with Alex Bregman. Very curious, though. Very curious. With Jefferson Rojas playing like he played in spring training, very curious where that puts Dansby Swanson. Now, again, Dansby is a beloved Chicago Cub right now within the organization. Some people outside the organization not too fond of him. People within the organization have a lot of great things to say about Dansby Swanson. They love the way he carries himself. They love the teammate that he is. They love the leader that he is. But this deal makes me think Dansby Swanson may not also get another Chicago Cubs deal. Again, I think he's on year 5. He has 2 more years left on his deal. And this further lets me think that Ian Happ is probably more than likely gone. Very, 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 very unsure of what this means for Seiya Suzuki. Again, I cannot see the Chicago Cubs keeping everybody, because you're going to need to add more home run power. You have great home run power with Michael Busch, PCA, and Seiya Suzuki. But you could probably go out and get somebody potentially in left field that could add even more home run power to your team. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Or do you guys think that the Chicago Cubs might end up really letting Ian Happ walk? What do you think this means for Seiya Suzuki? I think in my heart of hearts that, like I said, that Cubs probably still re-sign Seiya Suzuki. More than likely, this bodes the end for Ian Happ if it's me. However, again, we'll have to see how the season goes. We'll have to see how he plays and everything like that. I mean, he didn't look that great today in the game against the Washington Nationals. So, again, we will have to see what he does. But, again, the Chicago Cubs extend second baseman Nico Hoerner. Nico Hoerner, for last season for the Chicago Cubs, his numbers were magnificent. Like I said, he was very close to winning the batting title for last season. But he did end up losing that to Trey Turner. But again, like I said, Nico Hoerner is somebody that you definitely want to keep around. Again, he's a guy in the clubhouse that guys really appreciate, that guys enjoy, guys like being around. Again, and it's just one of those things where they're excited to keep him around in the organization. Again, you're not going to get much better defensively at second base than Nico Hoerner. Now, my only thought is like I said, that Nico Hoerner also has to stay healthy. which we'll see how healthy he stays this season. But at the same time, the Chicago Cubs are just showing you, Jed Hoyer is showing you his vision, who he wants around long term. 6-year deal for Nico. The dollar amount has not been disclosed yet. This came first reported from Jon Heyman. Like I said, he was the first one to break the news on this. Like I said, so again, the Cubs and Nico Hoerner are in agreement on a 6-year deal. So again, like I said, this is just one of those things where it's going to continue to build and continue allowing the Chicago Cubs to take some of the pressure off of themselves, not having to worry necessarily about these types of things. And for us fans, you know, it leaves less to the imagination of who the Chicago Cubs are going to be adding or subtracting, because they are showing you in the middle or the beginning of the season exactly who's going to be a part of the team. Jesse Rogers of ESPN was the first one to break the story. I'm sorry, it wasn't Jon Heyman. Jesse Rogers of ESPN was the first one to break it. Hoerner finished last year with a career best 6.2 WAR. So again, it was just another thing, another way of the Chicago Cubs locking up a piece that is very, very important to them. So again, where do we go from here? So Nico Hoerner, like I said, is a Chicago Cub. The extension is the second major extension for the Chicago Cubs. They've signed Piker Armstrong. And like I said, the Cubs are basically looking to lock up some of these pieces. So let me know you guys' thoughts on this. I want to hear from you guys below, your thoughts on the Chicago Cubs. And I think another big thing is, what does this mean for Matt Shaw? That's another part that I think people don't necessarily talk about. Matt Shaw was who we thought was going to be the heir apparent at second base. Well, if Nico Hoerner is sticking around, that kind of, if you already got Alex Bregman for 5 years, you know, I don't really know what Dansby's contract looks like, or if they keep Dansby or bring him around. I mean, could they move Matt Shaw over to left field? I mean, I don't really know. Could they move Seiya Suzuki over to left field? You know, I mean, I don't really know at this point. But like I said, the Chicago Cubs have done pieces of their homework. So again, this is one of those things where the Chicago Cubs have done their part. Nico Hoerner, guys, not going anywhere, sticking around the Chicago Cubs for the next 6 years. When I get the details, I'll release the details also on the contract. You guys tell me if it's a good contract, a bad contract, but just in general, comment below how you feeling. The Chicago Cubs, breaking news, re-signed Nico Hoerner to a 6-year deal. Make sure that you guys like, share, and subscribe. Comment below. Also, give us a shout out and a 5-star rating over on Spotify and on Apple if you are tuning into these episodes. We appreciate you also so much, as well as shout out to everybody on X. Appreciate you guys. Listen, until next time, go Cubs, go. Peace.
Thank you for watching another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, the #1 spot for all Chicago Cubs content. Remember to like, share, subscribe for more Cubs content.